Ancient ash trick that lets you store fermented fertilizer. Forever. Garden alchemy revealed. If you've ever brewed a powerful fermented fertilizer, like comfrey tea, weed juice, or fruit scrap ferment, only to watch it spoil, separate, or turn questionable after just a few weeks, well, you're not alone. For years, gardeners accepted that liquid ferments were temporary tools, use them fast or lose them. But there's an old, almost forgotten trick that changes everything. Wood ash. Used correctly, ash doesn't just preserve fermented fertilizer, it actually locks it in, stabilizes nutrients, neutralizes rot, and transforms a short-lived brew into something you can store for months or even years. This is what I like to call ash alchemy, and once you understand it, your garden inputs will never be the same. Let's break it down in a way that's practical, science-backed, and rooted in real garden experience. Why do fermented fertilizers go bad? Well, fermented fertilizers are alive. They're powered by microbes breaking down plant material, releasing nutrients into a soluble form that plants can quickly absorb. But once fermentation peaks, two things can happen. The brew either stabilizes, or it collapses. When oxygen sneaks back in, unwanted bacteria take over. Nutrients volatilize, smells turn sharp instead of earthy. What was once plant food becomes sludge. This is why so many gardeners end up dumping half-used ferments and starting again. The goal isn't to stop fermentation entirely, it's to end it on your terms, and that's where ash comes in. The hidden power of wood ash. So, wood ash is often treated like a crude soil amendment, but chemically, it's far more interesting. Ash is rich in potassium, calcium carbonate, magnesium, and trace minerals. More importantly, it's highly alkaline. That alkalinity is the key. When added at the right moment and in the right amount, ash raises the pH of a fermented fertilizer just enough to halt microbial overactivity without destroying nutrient value. Harmful bacteria can't thrive. Rot stops. Nutrients stabilize instead of breaking down further. And this isn't just modern gardening theory. Variations of this method were used in traditional agriculture across Europe, Asia, and Africa long before plastic bottles or synthetic preservatives ever existed. This is where, honestly, a lot of people get it wrong. You don't add ash at the beginning of fermentation. Doing that would kill the very microbes you need to break down the material. Instead, you add ash after fermentation has completed. You'll know your fertilizer is ready when bubbling has slowed dramatically, the solids have sunk, and the smell is deep, earthy, and just a bit sour, not sharp or rotten. This usually happens after about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on temperature and the materials you used. At this point, the nutrients are already unlocked. Now you're simply preserving them. Ash is, well, pretty powerful stuff. You don't need much at all. For a standard 20-liter container of fermented fertilizer, a small handful of finely sifted cold wood ash is enough. Stir it in slowly, and then let it settle. Check the smell the next day. It should be cleaner, calmer, almost mineral-like. If the liquid becomes slimy or smells chemical, you've added too much. Dilution can fix this, but precision really saves effort. Always use ash from untreated wood only. No charcoal briquettes, no painted wood, and definitely no trash fires. Pure wood ash is essential. Here's the beautiful part. Ash doesn't just preserve, it actually enhances your fertilizer. Potassium levels increase, making the mix ideal for flowering, fruiting, and root development. Calcium helps prevent blossom end rot and strengthens plant cell walls. Trace minerals fill in gaps that are often missing from compost teas. At the same time, nitrogen becomes more stable. Instead of escaping as gas or breaking down too fast, it stays available when you dilute and apply it to your soil. You're not freezing the fertilizer in time, you're refining it. Once ash has been added and the brew has settled for a day or two, you can transfer it into airtight containers. Glass, thick plastic, or sealed jerry cans all work well. Store them in a cool, shaded place. No refrigeration needed. Properly stabilized fermented fertilizer can last a year or longer without separating or spoiling. Some gardeners report using ash-treated ferments 2 seasons later with no loss of effectiveness. Before use, simply shake, dilute, and apply as usual. So, when it comes to using ash-stabilized ferments in your garden, there are a few key things to keep in mind. Because ash raises alkalinity, dilution really matters more than ever. For soil drenching, A ratio of about 1 to 20 is usually safe. If you're working with heavy feeders or fruiting plants, you can go just a bit stronger. Always apply to moist soil, never dry ground. These fertilizers really shine when used around tomatoes, peppers, squash, bananas, root crops, and fruit trees. They're especially powerful in acidic or heavily leached soils, where potassium and calcium are often lacking. Over time, gardeners notice not just faster growth, but sturdier plants, thicker stems, and, improved resilience to stress. Now let's talk about some common mistakes to avoid. One of the biggest mistakes is using ash as a cure-all. Not every ferment actually needs it. Leafy green fertilizers or nitrogen-heavy brews meant for quick use just don't benefit as much from long storage. Another mistake is adding ash repeatedly. This is a one-time stabilization step, not something you keep topping up. And finally, never pour ash-treated fertilizer directly onto plant leaves. Soil application is where it belongs. Why does this method matter for Soilpower gardeners? Well, at Soilpower, we're not chasing shortcuts, we're building systems. Ash alchemy fits perfectly into that mindset. It reduces waste, stretches resources, and turns local materials into long-term assets. Instead of constantly brewing new fertilizers, you build a reserve. Instead of reacting to garden needs, you're prepared. That's real Soilpower. This method bridges ancient wisdom and modern organic gardening in a way that's practical, affordable, and, honestly, deeply satisfying. Just to wrap things up, fermented fertilizers are already one of the most powerful tools in a natural gardener's arsenal. Ash doesn't replace that power, it locks it in. Once you try this method, you'll probably wonder how you ever gardened without it. If this article helped you rethink what's possible in your garden, make sure to subscribe to the Soilpower YouTube channel, share this knowledge with a fellow gardener, and, just keep growing smarter, not harder.